Entering the AllStar break here. What a first half of the season and quick one it's been for Major League Baseball and Fantasy Baseball. Here's a few hitters I look to add. Entering the break, the first guy, Francisco Alvarez of the New York Mets. Alvarez, he got off to a nice start the first couple months of the season. I know the last 3 weeks he tailed off, but this week he's been on a tear and right now available. He's still in 47% of fantasy leagues. On the season here for Alvarez, 17 home runs, 35 RBIs, 30 runs scored, 242 average, and a 296 on base. Alvarez, he's a typical power hitter. He's going to strike out a decent amount, but he's got great power to all parts of the field, and he really hits the long ball here, Alvarez. And over the last 2 weeks, he's really turned it back on. Like I mentioned, 5 home runs, 10 RBIs, 7 runs scored, a 316 average, and a 366 on base. So right now, he's the top hitter I looked at here entering the break. And we know he's at a weak catcher position in fantasy baseball. So right now, he's hit a home run, Alvarez, 5 out of the last 7 ball games. And he's getting things going from July 4th at the Diamondbacks, 1 for 4, a homer, 2 ribs. July 5th at the D-backs, 2 for 4, a homer. July 6th at the D-backs, 2 for 3, a homer, 3 RBIs. July 7th at the Padres, 4 for 5, a run and a rib. July 8th at the Padres, 1 for 4, a homer. And July 9th at the Padres, 0 for 3. So right now, he's back on a hot streak here, is Francisco Alvarez. He's in the running for Rookie of the Year. And these few days off definitely can help him as well, where we know catcher is a very tough position. You get dinged up and take foul tips, get hit with the bat a little bit, and obviously crouching the whole game. So right now, while he's been on a tear over the last few weeks and probably doesn't want to see the All-Star break, the way he's been swinging the bat is Alvarez. He's a big pickup this week, especially at a weak catcher position. The next hit is Jeimer Duran of the Boston Red Sox. So Duran, the first 2-3 weeks of the season, he was hitting over 400, but the numbers obviously dropped off big time in the last couple months, and then he's picked it back up now since the middle of June. Here's Jeimer Duran on the season, 5 home runs, 33 RBIs, 32 runs scored, 17 stolen bases, a 319 average, and a 365 on base percentage. In the last month, like I said, 2 home runs, 10 RBIs, 15 runs scored, 9 stolen bases, a 418 batting average, and a 443 on base. So right now, he's a free swinger, is Duran. He's a speedster as well, where he's easily going to steal 30 bases if he keeps getting consistent playing time, with already 17 at the break here. And right now, he's at a resurgence as well over the last month, like Alvarez has, is Duran. And right now, available in 54% of fantasy leagues. The only knock on him is he's not going to start versus lefties most nights here, is Duran. So the last few games, July 5th versus the Rangers, 1 for 4 run. July 6th sat out. July 7th versus the A's, 2 for 4, 2 runs, a rib. July 8th versus Oakland, 3 for 5, a homer, 3 RBIs, a stolen base, 3 runs scored. July 9th, he pinched hit in that ball game, going 1 for 2. So right now, Duran stealing bases, batting average is high. Not going to show a lot of power, but if you got batting average like that and you're going to steal bases, that's good enough for fantasy owners. And he's definitely a hitter I looked at this week. The next hit is Joey Votto of the Cincinnati Reds. So Joey Votto came back a few weeks ago from the injured list. Got off to a good start, and then 2 weeks after that, he struggled. But now Votto back, getting things going here for the Cincinnati Red team. And right now, he's available in 73% of fantasy leagues. On the season, already 7 home runs in only 58 at-bats, 10 runs scored, 259 average, and a 365 on base. Votto last season was a terrible year for him. And already this year, in about 250 less at-bats, he's already almost matched his home run total. Well, last year he only had 11, this season 7 already. And maybe Votto, he feels good playing with all these exciting young ball players over there in Cincinnati. With Ellie De La Cruz, he's taking the league by storm. Matt McClain, he's been great. Spencer Steer having a solid year. So right now, Votto, he's been back and he's showing the power. July 5th at the Nats, 3 for 5, a homer, 2 runs scored. July 6th at the Nats, 1 for 2 with a rib. July 7th at the Brewers, 2 for 4, a homer, 3 ribs. July 8th at the Brewers, 2 for 4, a homer, 3 RBIs. And July 9th at the Brewers, 0 for 3. So right now, Votto, he looks good so far since returning from the injured list. Pretty much had the first half of the season off, and then gets a few 3-4 days off here before the Reds resume play, and that could rejuvenate him as well. So right now, while he's hitting for power and out there in tons of fantasy leagues, and we know first base has been a tricky type of position this year here, he's definitely a hitter I look to get this week. The next hitter is Suwinski of the Pittsburgh Pirates. If you're looking for pure power, and that's about it, Suwinski is going to bring that for fantasy owners. On the season here for Suwinski, 19 home runs, 48 RBIs, 40 runs scored, 7 stolen bases, a 238 average, and a 365 on base. But over the last 2 weeks here, he's getting hot again. 4 home runs, 13 RBIs, 10 runs scored, a stolen base, a 333 average, and a 490 on base. So right now, those are eye-popping numbers for sure, especially the on base here for Suwinski. And like I mentioned, he's the prototypical power hitter. He's going to strike out a whole lot. He's going to hit 30 home runs most likely this season. And he's going to draw his walks as well. And this is why this Pirate team has improved this season majorly, with a big bat like Suwinski in the lineup. And their pitching staff's been pretty solid as well. July 5th at the Dodgers, 1 for 4, a home and 3 RBIs. July 6th at the Dodgers, 1 for 3, a run. July 7th at the D-backs, 1 for 3. July 8th at the D-backs, 1 for 4, an RBI. And July 9th at the D-backs, 0 for 3 with an RBI. So right now, like I said, the strikeout rate is definitely high for Suwinski. But if you want to sacrifice a few things for power and on-base percentage and some RBIs, he'll definitely bring that for owners. And right now, he's only out there right now, 44% of fantasy leagues. If he has another big week coming out of the break, here's Suwinski. He's not really going to be available in many fantasy leagues. The next hit is Moniak of the Los Angeles Angels. So now with Mike Trout on the injury list once again, just every season now, it seems like Trout is out for an extended period of time, and it's happening once again. So Moniak, one of their top prospects in the system, and he's definitely got great power as well on the season. 10 home runs, 28 RBIs, 21 runs scored in only 130 at-bats, 308 average and a 338 on base. And over the last month of the season, he's been very solid as Moniak. 6 home runs, 18 RBIs, 12 runs scored, a 311 average, and a 338 on base. So right now he's putting up good numbers. He's showing good pop. And now they especially need the pop here, with Trout probably out 4 to 6 weeks with a broken bone in his hand. So right now available in tons of fantasy leagues here is Moniak at 84%. And I think owners definitely should go out there and get him. He's got power, he's this kid. He tore it up in the minor leagues over the last few seasons. And right now he's going to have an everyday job, no doubt, with Mike Trout out. July 3rd at the Padres, 0 for 0. July 4th at the Padres, 1 for 4 rib. July 5th at the Padres, 1 for 4 run. July 7th at the Dodgers, 2 for 4, a home and 3 RBIs. And July 8th at the Dodgers, 1 for 4 with a run. So right now, playing good baseball, getting an everyday opportunity. And he's definitely a hitter and one of the top priorities, I believe, for fantasy owners to go out there and get this week. The next hit is Jordan Westburg of the Baltimore Orioles. So this Oriole team, they've been on a tear in the first half of the season, winning 54 games, and they've called up the kids now, Jordan Westburg and Colton Cowser, some of their top prospects in the system. So right now in a small sample size here for Westburg, 8 runs scored, no home runs, 6 RBIs, a 320 batting average, and a 400 on base. So right now Westburg, he's hitting a lot of singles, I know, but he does qualify at 2 weak positions at second base and shortstop, so he could bring batting average to fantasy owners. In the minor leagues, he was stealing bases as well a little bit here as Westburg. And right now available in tons of fantasy leagues still. And he even got dropped in 7% of fantasy leagues, where fantasy owners really haven't been patient. So right now, out there in 59% of leagues. So the last few games from Westburg, July 5th at the Yankees, 1 for 3, a run, 2 RBIs. July 6th at the Yankees, 2 for 5, 2 runs, a rib. July 7th at the Twins, 1 for 4. And July 9th at the Twins in that one, 2 for 5 with a run. So there's not going to be a lot of pressure on Westburg over here for this Baltimore Oriole team. They got a lot of young guns on the roster. Gunnar Henderson, Goldie Rutschman, 2 solid ball players this season who've really helped this franchise turn it around over the last few seasons. And these guys like Westburg and Cowser calling up, they're going to be good complementary players and guys who could fill in holes as well for this team. And even Aaron Hicks, since they picked him up from the Yankees, he's been on a tear. So Westburg right now, like I said, out there in 59% of fantasy leagues. And a guy more owners should give opportunity to, because so far he's hitting over 320. I know it's only 40 at-bats, but that's definitely something to keep in mind here, and look at his numbers as well in the minor leagues. The next hit is his teammate Colton Cowser of the Baltimore Orioles. So Cowser, he did it all in the minor leagues this season, hitting over 300, over 10 stolen bases, over a 330 batting average, and he had over 10 home runs as well. So it was time for Baltimore to call him up. And so far in the early going, a little bit of a struggle, but for him it's only been 16 at-bats on the year, 3 for 16 on the year, 5 runs scored, 62 RBIs and a 389 on base percentage. So right now, Cowser available in tons of fantasy leagues as well at 68%. And like I said, he did it all in the minor leagues. And this Baltimore team, they want to add a little more pop to the lineup and another good hitter to the lineup. And right now, Ted Cowser to it is a good addition, and fantasy owners should own him as well in 10-team leagues with me. But July 5th at the Yankees, 1 for 3, a run and a rib. July 6th at the Yankees, 0 for 3, a run. July 7th at the Twins, 1 for 4, a run. July 8th at the Twins, 0 for 3, a run and a rib. And July 9th at the Twins in that one, 1 for 3 with 2 runs. So right now, Cowser got his feet wet a week before the All-Star break. And now we'll see if he can keep things going here after the All-Star break, where this Baltimore team obviously had an impressive first half. And like I said, Cowser did it all on the AAA level, and hopefully it translates now to the Major League level. The next hitter is Jeimer Candelario of the Washington Nationals. So Candelario, he's been a solid ball player this season for Washington, batting third in the lineup, and he's doing a little bit of everything, showing power, driving in runs, and the batting average has been respectable as well. After last season, he only hit 217. This year, he's hitting 265. Is Candelario. 13 home runs, 43 RBIs, 46 runs scored. So right now, playing good baseball. Last couple weeks as well, 4 homers, 10 RBIs, 3 stolen bases, 11 runs scored, a 298 average, and a 365 on base. So right now, he's out there in 62% of fantasy leagues. And obviously, with this national team being the worst team in the National League this season, I could see Candelario, who is a one-year deal, be a good rental traded to a contender where he could even be in a lineup with more protection and good bats in it, where he's going to get a lot of good pitches to hit. So the last few games for Candelario: July 4th versus the Reds, 0 for 4 run. July 5th versus the Reds, 1 for 4. July 6th versus the Reds, 1 for 4. July 8th versus the Rangers, 1 for 4, home at 3 RBIs. And July 9th versus the Rangers, 1 for 4. So surprisingly, before the break here, the Nats beat the Rangers 2 out of 3 ball games. And Candelario was a big part of that, obviously. So right now, he's playing good baseball, showing power, driving in runs. And like I said, he's a mainstay in this lineup. And even if he does get traded to a contender, he's going to have good hitters in the lineup around him better than Washington. And he's going to see pitches to hit. So Candelario, a nice add this week. The next hit is Ezequiel Tovar of the Colorado Rockies. So Tovar, first couple months of the season, got off to the slow start. Top prospect coming up this year. But right now, he's been tearing it up. Is Tovar over the last month of the season. On the year, 9 home runs, 44 RBIs, 42 runs scored, at 262 average, and a 299 on base with 4 stolen bases on the year. But the last month, 5 home runs, 19 RBIs, 14 runs scored, a stolen base, at 297 average, and a 316 on base. At Tovar, the thing obviously is he's a free swinger, but he's still a youngster, 21 years old, and he's starting to get things going. And right now, it's been a young man's game this season, it seems like. We've seen a handful of prospects come up and really turn things around for franchises, or just been solid ball players in the first half of the season. So right now, Tovar available in 54% of fantasy leagues. And obviously, he's going to play every day for this Rocky team that's going nowhere this season. So July 4th at Houston, 0 for 3. July 5th at the Astros, 1 for 4 run. July 7th at the Giants, 1 for 4, homer, 3 RBIs. July 8th at the Giants, 0 for 4. And July 9th at the Giants, 0 for 3 in that one. So right now, Tovar playing good baseball. I know he's 0 for his last 7, but now he's hitting the All-Star break. Can reset a little bit, and hopefully he picks up where he left off as Tovar. And obviously, he's a shortstop, so that's another plus as well, adding him to your roster. And the final hitter I look to get off the wire this week, he is Riley Greene of the Detroit Tigers. So Riley Greene, he came back quicker than people thought off the injury list here. Now back in 2 games, Riley Greene's looked good so far. And yes, he's not available in many fantasy leagues, only 42%, but on the year here for Greene, 6 home runs, 19 RBIs, 31 runs scored, a 302 average, 6 stolen bases, and a 373 on base. A few seasons ago, he's one of the top prospects in all Major League Baseball, and the top 5 was Riley Greene. And he was showing good flashes early in the year before, obviously, he went down with the injury, but he came back sooner than later, and he got his feet wet as well a little bit before the break with 2 games. July 8th versus the Jays, 2 for 2, a run. July 9th versus the Jays, 2 for 5, a homer in that one. So right now, he's a 5-2 player, is Riley Greene. He's going to play every day for this Tiger team, another young team going nowhere this season, one of the worst teams in the American League. And Riley Greene, like I said, this is the last chance for owners to go out there and get him. Only out there in 42% of fantasy leagues. That's a few hitters I look to add here entering the All-Star break for the fantasy baseball season.